Welcome to another episode of Cyrus's podcast. Today we have my good friend Chelsea Halverson from Seattle, 30 under 30 honoree, absolutely crushing it. We met a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, beginning of August.
Yeah,
August.
I said good friend, but
Yeah.
we became pretty good friends because we had a lot of conversation. We met a couple weeks ago. And I was super intrigued about your story that you told me, just about how you got into real estate, where you're at, all of this thought process. And so for me, I love to share stories. So
Yeah.
now we get to share the story. So thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for joining me in beautiful Seattle.
Yeah, I know. It's a little rainy today,
yeah.
but we're on a houseboat.
Yes, very cool.
It's pretty cool.
Super unique. Tons of houseboats opportunities in Seattle, which is the fun part about it.
Yeah.
Rain or shine, right?
It's so sick. So now I want to kind of go into before you got into real estate, and then from there how you've basically built your business and where you're at, where you're going, so on and so forth. So I want to rewind all the way to before real estate.
Yeah.
Did you know you were going to get into real estate?
No, pure accident that I'm here. And I look back on that, and it's just so funny how it's the right opportunity just kind of leads you into different places in your life.
So you said pure accident. How so?
So like many out there, I had graduated college. So I'm originally from Anchorage, Alaska, grew up in Alaska, until I was 18. Then I went to the University of Oregon, traveled a little bit, had some internships, but really didn't have a game plan on what that next career step was.
Yeah.
And as any 22, 23-year-old, you accidentally move back home and you find yourself in your hometown asking, why are you in your hometown? So I gave myself 6 months to be back at home. And that was my deadline. I think I hit 7 or 8 months, and I started just applying to jobs everywhere I possibly could go. So I put my resume in Indeed, and I knew I wanted to be in Seattle. I have family down here. It just felt really good to be here. So I just went on Indeed and just hit apply to probably 300 jobs, just to, take me at this point. And there were jobs all across the board. I interviewed with Alaska Airlines, a vet clinic, and then I got a call from a real estate agent. And I remember hanging up that phone call, just really not knowing all the avenues and opportunity with real estate.
Yeah.
And I hung up that call and I did more research on where you can really take your business with real estate. And I remember just kind of having, some self-reflection of that's a really great opportunity. Yeah.
Interesting. So rewind. So you went to Oregon, you said? Okay, Oregon State or?
Go Ducks.
Okay. I'm just wondering,
University of Oregon.
University of Oregon.
We can't get those mixed up.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
So I don't mix it up, okay? So you went to University of Oregon. You, what did you study at?
Environmental studies.
Environmental studies.
Yep. And then I had an internship down in Australia. I was volunteering on a wildlife sanctuary.
Oh, wow.
Working with kangaroos, kiwis. Yeah. Or kangaroos and kiwis. Kangaroos, koala bears. Was very passionate about that, but it's a very unique industry to be in. It's a lot of nonprofits. So you have to be very passionate about those things and, have some other source of income that's coming in too, because it doesn't really
pay the bills.
No.
Interesting. So you studied environmental science. You went and worked in Australia with kangaroos and koala bears.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, not kiwis.
And then you came back home. And so when you went back home, were you like, oh, I get to go home? Or was it like, I have to go home, I can't be home for this long? When did you come up with your deadline there? How did that work?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I had my internship fall through. So I not only was in Australia, but I think it was an 8-week internship in Fiji, and I was going to be diving, doing coral reef research. It was very exciting. I am type 1 diabetic, and so I need a refrigerator for my insulin. And I got a call from my internship the day before it started saying, hey, there's no refrigerator on the island you're staying at. The nearest one is 5 hours away. You got to take 2 boats. And it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, this is something I'm super passionate about, a very cool opportunity, but I got to put my health first and know that I am in a foreign country. If something happens and I can't get access to my insulin, that's a deal breaker for me. So
Just a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Lifeline would be taken away. Not a good situation. Mom and dad would be very upset with me for putting myself in that situation. So I ended up staying in Fiji. Me and my friend, we still dove, and we had the greatest time of our lives, but it was really cut short. So it was pretty much a medical thing that brought me back home. And that's where it was super unexpected to be back in your hometown, because I wasn't planning on being back there.
Okay. So, interesting. So so you unexpectedly had to go back home. You had this game plan to do this. And then how did you feel when that happened?
Devastated. Yeah. I had so many goals and ambitions for myself, and leaving your small town too, you want to really kind of showcase that you can make it out, right? And not move back home. I love my friends and family that are all back in Alaska. I go back and visit all the time, but it is just too small of a community for myself. So I found myself very bored very quick once I was back there. And I knew from the beginning that wasn't my end goal. So that's why I kind of had that 6-month mark of, okay, I got to reassess some things. I don't know what my next steps are. And that's when, I started looking at environmental opportunities here, but then also things all across the board, because it was more so just get me out of my small town.
Okay. Wait, and how many people are in your small town?
Like 350,000. So a bigger small town, but it's, if you've ever been to Alaska is, a little bit country.
So that's interesting. So the reason I ask is because, a lot of the times when we go through like these life events that completely change the course, because this completely changed the course of your life.
Oh, right? Yeah, absolutely.
It's I know when it happened to me, like with my car accident and everything, like that was a complete identity crisis that I had. And so it's so interesting to hear. I didn't know that that's why you went home. So that's pretty interesting. So when you had to go home, it was like, I am not staying here for longer than 6 months. Okay. So you're like, I'm out of here in 6 months. I don't care what's going to happen. I'm figuring a way out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a big part of that was going to the University of Oregon. I had 4 years outside of my hometown, was exposed to a wide variety of people. Growing up in Alaska, I never knew my childhood was unique until I was in front of people that went to LA or San Francisco, and their childhoods were completely different than mine. So, I was exposed to a different culture in a sense, and that really opened my eyes. And then obviously traveling internationally too, down to Australia and Fiji, that just exposed me to so much more. And then getting the rug kind of pulled out from you and heading back home and living with your mom and dad after you've lived with your friends for 4 years and everything. It felt like I was moving backwards. And that just, I knew from the beginning that wasn't what I was meant to do. Right.
I actually I love that. And I love it because you went and you said, okay, 6 months deadline, and then you went and took action and made the choice. I believe life's all choices.
It is.
Like, I'm a big believer in every single thing that happens to us. Like, we have the choice to go right or left, right? Like, you could have said, you know what? I'm comfortable here. I'll just get a place around here. I could get a job here. I'll be all right, yada, yada, yada. But you were like, no, this is not what I want for my life and my future. And you're like, I'm going to go right?
Yep. And I saw that happen with a lot of my, colleagues and such moving back home. And it's like, once you're there, you get complacent. It feels comfortable. I think I've always been really great. I like the uncomfortable feeling. So even the thought of coming to Seattle, I didn't necessarily have a game plan, but I'm just that person that will figure it out, right? It's good exposure.
So, okay, so you called all these people, and then you got the call from this real estate. It was just a real estate agent or a brokerage or?
Solo agent that was looking at hiring on an assistant. At first it was an assistant position. It evolved, once I was in there. I was just...
So you were just an admin?
Just an admin, yeah.
Okay, well, not just an admin, because admins actually run the whole freaking company, and I know that for a fact, because my admin team is literally the best. But you started as an admin?
Yes.
Okay, so you moved from Alaska to Seattle?
Yep. So Another side story, my parents do own a property in the greater Seattle area.
Okay.
They're kind of closer down to the airport. So I was fortunate enough to at least move in with or into their property when I first moved here.
Yeah.
So I was living down in Des Moines, and then the office was in Kirkland. So it's about an hour and 15-minute commute.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was long days of going back and forth. And yeah.
And so when you came, but you knew nothing about real estate, obviously. You knew how to dive and hang out with kangaroos.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What's escrow?
Okay. So then you came, you started working as an admin. Well, how was that transition into the real estate industry?
It was good because I guess my position, it was, managing a solo agent, and there were a lot of hats with that admin stuff, right? So prior to me moving, I did have a job in Alaska. I wasn't just hanging out at home. So I was running marketing and events for a golf course.
Okay.
And that client management really helped with coming in and helping with the independent agent and kind of, having those to-do lists with everything. But I look back at certain things that I was doing, and I was writing contracts for this agent and not even working with clients and knowing what the terminology was. I just knew which check boxes to put and where all the line items were, which was helpful then when I, in return, got into the business. But I look back at some of those things and laugh because I didn't know the terminology. But I'm running contracts. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. So, okay, so you're helping this agent, so on and so forth. How did you become a real estate agent? Were you working with him and then became an agent, or like how did that happen?
Yeah, it all evolved so quick. So started off just standard admin, which then in return became a transaction coordinator, and then marketing, and then I became a buyer's agent. And I really saw my eyes open the first time that I had the opportunity to be a buyer's agent. So the real estate broker that I was working for, he had a listing that I helped prep, which was really cool because I worked with the seller directly. And then I ran an open house. I got a buyer for his seller. And then in return, we listed my buyer's house. So my first transaction ever, we essentially had a trifecta. And after those 3 closed, I realized that I was capable of going through the motions with these clients. And it really just opened my eyes to
what you could do.
Yeah, what I could do.
So when did you decide you were going to get your real estate license, though? Did you start working on that as soon as you became an admin, or?
Yeah, fortunately, in order to take the job, the real estate broker, his name was Zach. Zach paid for me to get my real estate license. Yes, because then I could open doors for his clients and run errands and everything of that sort. But yeah, it was very much so a part of the transition into the role, which was huge. Yeah.
Okay, so then you did this triple side deal basically.
Right.
And you're like, wait a second, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
So you gave you a little confidence, and then what?
So, and then, carried forward, was doing open houses, really liked the client-facing aspect of it all. And I ended up hosting open houses for the Northern Key team. It was Sean McConnell was running the Northern Key team or it still does. But I really became close with Sean just running his open houses. And then in return, I made the transition onto his team.
Okay.
Yeah. So Sean had a little bit more of an established team. At the time I came on, there was 5 of us brokers, but he had a full transaction team, and it was a little bit, bigger of a
and
support
you didn't
system.
have to do the admin stuff.
Exactly.
You were just focused on just agent.
Buyers and sellers. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so you joined this team, you worked with this team, and you did very well.
Yes. Yeah. I was able to really elevate my business. So I was with the team for 3 years, and truthfully, I would not be here today if it wasn't for Sean and his team and his support. In the 3 years that I was on his team, I think I closed 50 million, by like 65 transactions or so. But it was just a really great opportunity to get in front of people and really learn the business at like an expedited pace too.
Yeah. And so was that the team that you transitioned to solo from, or? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is an interesting thing, because I believe like especially as a new agent, you can go onto a team and it basically helps you go from 0 to 60 just way faster, right? Instead of 10 seconds, you go 3 seconds. Because they have the systems, they have the processes, then you can go and just do your thing.
Yeah.
So then what was that transition like? You went from being on a team, you went from being an admin to becoming a buyer's agent and an admin,
Yep.
to sitting there and becoming a buyer's agent and a listing agent on a team, and then you transition to solo. So what was that like?
The transition to being solo. So again, I was on this team for 3 years. I felt like I had my own systems really dialed in. I knew how to work these buyers. Being in front of so many other people, you get exposed to so many different personalities, transaction types. I felt like I had enough on my resume, in a sense, to be able to do it myself.
Yeah.
And really that third year, I started connecting more with like referrals, friends and family. And I saw myself kind of taking a step back because the team was really heavy on online leads. And online leads are great, and every team has, their systems that work for people, but I felt like there was a disconnect there for me with these online leads, and where I really found myself like enjoying my business and finding success was working with the referrals and the people that I knew. So I started to change my practice while I was still on the team, of how I was navigating those leads and those buyers and sellers. And I was kind of playing around with how I can be successful outside of the team while I was still there. And by the end of that third year, I was coming into the new year, and again, I'm that person that being uncomfortable somehow makes me comfortable. I like that challenge, and I never want to get complacent. And it started to feel like, okay, this is easy. I can do this, but like, where's that next challenge? So I decided to leave my team in December, and it was scary. It was so scary. I mean, I thought that was that right choice. And I remember waking up a couple days later being like, why did I get rid of such a good thing? Right. Like that's it, everything's there. I could have stayed on that team for 10 years and been very successful. But I think just from the beginning, I knew that I was the only one that could drive that ship, and like there was no choice for me to fail. And so I really wanted to prove it to myself, and I just picked up things day one and kept running with them.
So first of all, I love that, because I like believe like if you don't take a chance on things when you feel that, like you'll regret the decision later, right? But what I'm curious about is like where you actually, like where do you think this mindset came from, where you have to continually challenge yourself? It seems like it's a theme, right? Like it seems like you want to continually like push yourself to. So where do you think that came from?
I've tried to come up with an answer for myself on that, because I think growing up, life just flies by, right? And then just being an adult and being someone that is career driven, out of nowhere, you're talking to your parents and you're just like, where did this come from? I had a lot of challenges when I was younger. I can't lie. And this was something that was brought up on my 30 under 30 application. And it was something that I don't necessarily lead with, but I do have some disabilities. And, from birth, I've had to kind of face those. So I was born with hip dysplasia. I had a half body cast when I was 6 months old.
Oh, wow.
So learned to crawl in a cast, and then had surgery the first time when I was 5. And then again, when I was 7, I was in a wheelchair, had a cast from like my hips down to both my ankles. And it was something that I think, talking to my parents, a lot of people could really lean into that disability, but I never wanted it to affect me by any means. And so I lived my life like, nothing was there. And then fast forward, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. It was just like one thing after another was always, it seems like not only medically, but like things were challenging me in those directions. And so I always just had to kind of like fight past those and not let those objections hold me back. So now when I see the day-to-day stuff, I'm like, oh, no big deal. Like, I've conquered these other things that are so challenging to me, and don't let them kind of affect my mindset on things. And it really just, made me a more positive and optimistic person of just kind of trusting myself. I don't know if that really answers your question.
It does, because it actually does. Because like it's so interesting, because I believe success leaves clues. I believe that there's so many ways to look at things, right? Like we were talking about earlier, choice is everything. I truly believe like I've been through a lot of adversity in my life, right? And easily, just like you said, you can lean into that adversity and sit there and be like, woe is me, my life is hard, and that's it, and my life is hard, and it's a good excuse,
right?
Like
it's valid.
and nobody's gonna sit there and be like, you know what, Chelsea, like you just didn't try. No, they're going to be
Right.
like, you know what, you were dealt bad cards, and you're going to say,
Right.
yeah, I was, you know,
Right.
or you sit there and you create your future.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the reason I asked that question is because I truly believe like the way we are is because of experiences that we've had in our life.
Right.
So it makes sense that you have gone through these experiences from when you were little.
Mm-hmm.
You've just learned how to do things when people told you couldn't do things.
Right. Yeah, it was definitely challenge accepted when I was little of, oh, okay, yes, I have this disability. I never looked at it as a disability, but I can still do everything that you can do.
Do you feel like your parents helped you look at it in that light versus like how, you know, versus, oh, woe is me? Like, did
I do
they?
think so. Yeah. Oh, I absolutely do think so. Because, yeah, if my parents would have kind of had that woe is me mindset, it would have, in return, I would have reflected that as well.
Yeah.
And I think they just wanted me to have as much of a normal childhood as I possibly could have too. And so they were always encouraging me to do other things and still continue with sports and all of those things.
That's cool.
Cause yeah, otherwise if my parents did have kind of a negative mindset on it, I'm sure in return as an adult, I would have leaned into all of those things.
Yeah, that's why I asked. Because I feel like if your parents were like, oh my gosh, don't do anything, you bubble
you're so
wrap
fragile.
you know, like you know, then it's
Bubble
like
boy.
yeah, exactly, you know. But now you were taught that like, okay, yeah, stuff happens and this is natural, this happens, but you can still go and have XYZ life. And so now in your professional life, it seems that you've really leaned in to be like, okay, yeah, this is happening around me and this is happening right now, but like I can create my future. Mm-hmm. And I love that. Like that's like story of my life. So for you, you really took control of your future with your choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now everything that's happened in your real estate career. So for instance, from when you thought you weren't going to be in real estate, right? To coming all the way down to becoming a 30 under 30 honoree, which is one of the most prestigious things that you can have in real estate, right?
Yeah.
To being a solo agent and crushing it on this side of the business, like I truly think it came from you pushing through when times were hard.
I do too. Yeah.
Did you ever have a time in that journey that you said, that you wanted to quit?
I mean, everyone does, right?
That's what I'm asking.
Real estate's hard. It's not for the weak. And I think a lot of people, they see these shows and, you know, they see the glamorous side of it all too. And you think that that's your day-to-day life. But yeah, there's so many challenges with things. And especially now being on that solo side, you know, I still have my mentors that I go to and I talk to, but you don't have that full team dynamic to lean on. And there are certain times in certain transactions where I'm like, okay, well, if I were still on a team, I would have X, Y, and Z for those resources. But again, challenge accepted of, okay, but I'm not on a team anymore. I'm by myself. So how do I find those resources and who can I surround myself with to support me? And yeah, just having a good support system.
That's
with that.
really cool. And so you mentioned these mentors that you lean on. Are those your old team leads? Are those people, other agents that you've met? Like who are those?
Yeah, mostly agents in the market. Either I'm still very close with a lot of my old team members, but people that you met in Chicago, so Cheyenne and Molly, being on this new YPN board with Seattle King County, they have been great support systems. Fun fact, Cheyenne, I think, was the second person I met when I got my job. So I was with Keller Williams over in Kirkland, and she tells the story of, she was like, I feel like you were just this tiny little 18-year-old and you walked in with this backpack for your first day of school. And she was like, you were just such a little baby. So it's been fun to have her my whole career and to watch me grow and her encourage me and getting me involved in the Seattle King County Realtor Association Realtors. Like that's been huge too. And she pushes me a lot. So yeah.
That's cool. And again, because I believe like mentors are like everything when it comes to leveling up your business. So it's good to hear. Consistently when I talk to people, everybody every single time says, I had a mentor, a mentor's helping me, blah, blah, blah. And I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, I need to find a mentor. But it's really just like finding people that you can connect with that will help support your business, right? Like, or just you in general.
I think that's the bigger one, is like kind of having that shift of, yes, the business aspect is there, but personal growth, right?
Yeah.
And mental health, and just having someone that you can kind of be able to not vent to, but you just have some conversation to help you get to that next step on it, whether it's business or personal.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, that's how, like, I have multiple different mentors that have helped me in all different types of my life, you know, and times of my life, and I still call them for advice for random things, you know. And I go through these times where I'm talking to one person like every day, and you know, it's like this. So, but I think it's important to realize that you can have you can find a mentor in any space, in any way. It's just someone that you trust, that you can lean on, that can help you, or you can help them, right?
Right. Yeah.
So now, okay, solo agent, you've been crushing it. Your mentors have helped you build your business. Like, what's next? Like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to eventually have your own brokerage? Like, what do you want?
That's like the $1 million question, right? Because again, going back to real estate, there's just endless opportunities. I mean, you can take your business with whatever direction that you want to and be highly successful. And so it's cool to kind of see what other people are doing and take those notes of, do I want a big team? Do I want to go on the investment side? I could give you 5 different answers and then maybe call me in 10 years and see where I'm actually at with this. But I would like to expand my team. I can't foresee myself having a large team to manage, but it would be very nice to have a more formal team with, you know, admin, transaction, maybe some buyer agents, listing coordinators below you. But another side of me really likes the design and like the design aspect of everything too. So I would like to eventually get into whether it being like interior design or just remodeling and doing some flips, those kinds of things. I mean, I think that's everyone's goal at the end of the day. Maybe I just watch a lot of HGTV, but I don't think that's immediately going to happen because residential sales is so different than the design side of it. But maybe that's my 5-10 year goal, is to kind of flip more onto the back end of stuff.
Onto the flipping side.
Yeah, the flipping side of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Interesting. Awesome. I actually love that. And that's like my favorite thing about real estate is, like, when I got into it, I had no real estate background either. And it's like, when I started learning everything you can do in real estate, I was like, wait a second, like, there's industries on industries are leaning on this one industry to like, you can literally do anything with real estate. Yeah. So it's really cool, and it's kind of a niche thing, and it's like a pretty powerful platform to just be able to know about real estate as far as the residential transactions, and then you can branch off into thousands of other things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, real estate, when someone says they're in real estate, it's so broad because you're like, okay, are you a residential real estate agent? Are you an investor? All those things.
Do you do development? Do you do that? Like, it's so amazing.
Yeah.
So I love that. I actually love that. And when you build your team, you can scale it in a way that you can then lean into the other things that you want to do as well, which will be really cool.
Yeah.
Now, if you were talking to yourself when you just heard the news that you got to go back home to Alaska, and you're right now,
oh my gosh,
what advice would you give yourself?
Oh my gosh. One, that's a weird reflection because I have changed and grown so much as a person. I can't even fathom being back at that day one too, because there was so much anxiety with what that next step is, right? Going back to like being 22, 23 and not knowing where that next career step is for you, you kind of feel like you're a failure right off the bat of not knowing where you're at with it. So I think for me, giving advice to that 22, 23-year-old Chelsea is just truly trusting your gut and challenging yourself and going through the process of everything, and saying yes to all opportunities, and just knowing that like you can come out from the other side. You don't have to have someone that's going to create a roadmap for you on what your job career is. Because I felt that way for the longest time of like, I got to be in a job that gives me a to-do list, and I need to have someone that's going to manage myself. And to see that I don't have someone managing me and I'm managing my own business has been really eye-opening. But just challenging myself and trusting that things will work out.
I love that. That's really cool. And you You had said something there, and I like that failure aspect, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be a failure. Like, it's so interesting when you realize as you grow, like, success is defined by only us,
Right.
as an individual, right? Like, no one can define my success. You can tell me what you think my success will be, but at the end of the day, I choose what my success is, you know? And I think that's such a powerful thing, that as you go through life, that if I would have known that earlier, it would have been so eye-opening, right? But I won't change my life for anything.
Right.
Because the experience is what it really life is about, right?
That's what led you to where you are today.
Yeah. But it's interesting that you said that, because I hear that is a repeating trend that happens when I interview so many successful people. Is it's like at first you feel like you're going to be a failure, but then you realize, like, you get to create your success. So, like, there's literally no way you can fail if you're doing what you enjoy. Like,
yeah. And
trusting your gut.
Trusting your gut, and just knowing too, I mean, I'm going into my 5th year of real estate, right? And I'm starting to hit those major check boxes of the things that can define success for someone. But knowing that I still have so far to go is really eye-opening as well, of like, okay, I'm here today, but how can I double what I'm already doing? Yeah. Whether that is these awards or transactions or my team, you know, it's endless there, but.
Well, yeah. And like, actually, so I can go on for days about this conversation, because it's so interesting. My life, I wanted, my dream car was a G-Wagon, G63 AMG. Yeah. I wanted to pay my mom's house off, yada, yada, yada. These were my 2 biggest goals in my life. And then, like, a couple years ago, I went and bought my G-Wagon cash. A matte black, lifted, AMG. I mean, everything
you dreamed
literally
of.
To the T, right?
Just because you could.
Because I could, and because it was my goal, and I paid my mom's house off. And then when that happened, I was like, I still have this like now what?
Yeah, it's like you're not fully fulfilled. Yeah.
And it was such an eye-opening thing for me to realize, like, all these things, like, and don't get me wrong, the G-Wagon, getting that was great, right? Like it's a great accomplishment.
Oh, yeah.
Pay my mom's house off, great
Huge.
Accomplishment. That's not taking away from it or saying don't go chase these things. But the reality is like, what I realize is, like, I will forever chase things if I don't create a success that is fulfilling to me, right? So, like, that's when I shifted my definition of success to positively impacting one person on a daily basis. And when I did that, it was so like, oh my gosh, like I feel successful every day that I do that, versus chasing these awards and these things and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, success doesn't have to be tangible things either. And I think we're really guilty of that.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, anyone really is, but then especially in real estate too, you see those people making those high volume transactions, and they have the nice cars and the handbags, and that's always in your mind of like, okay, I got to get my first Louis Vuitton and all these things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the tangible things are nice, but I think the personal goals and just bettering yourself and your business and whatever those may be are a lot more long term.
Yeah. And I think you said something else that was really a big tell on that, is like, when I asked what you would give advice for, you're like, well, I was a completely different person and I've grown so much. And I think what happens, as long as you're willing to accept it, like, we grow naturally no matter what, right? And as we go through these life events and these big changes in our life, we have these moments where we're able to grow. And like, if we're continually chasing growth, we will 10 years, 5 years down the line, look back and be like, oh my gosh, I was a completely different person. I thought about things differently, so on and so forth. And I'm a big believer in, like, that's what life's really about, right? Like, we're born and then we die. Everything in between is what life is. And so, like, why aren't we enjoying every single step?
Yeah. But and going back to what you said about choices too, though, it's okay, we're born and then we die, but everything in between is our choice. Yeah. And like you said, you can go right or you can go left, and those can completely alter your life plans. Yeah. But unless you lean into going right, you might not ever know where that leads you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I appreciate you so much for being on today.
I appreciate you for having me.
Amazing conversation. Wish I could go for like 8 hours on this conversation. But thank you so much. Now, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
Yes. So I'm on Instagram, Seattle Real Estate Queen. It's kind of a funny handle name. I made it in 2019 and it's stuck ever since.
And how do you, I'm going to ask you to spell it out because it's audio as well. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's Seattle, SEATTLE period, real, REAL period, estate, ESTATE period, queen, QUEEN.
Awesome. So people want to reach out to you, follow you, message you all on there.
Yep.
I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for being on.
No.
And till next time.
Yeah, till next time. Thanks for being here and excited to see the 30 Under 30 Mastermind this week.
It'll be great.
Yeah, we have a good week ahead of us.
Yeah, we do. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.